Okay. Hello, everyone. Welcome to this webinar. My name is Ayeni Mutamba from Africa Communications Week. Very happy to see some familiar faces and names. Today, we're going to explore the latest trends in AI in PR and how to leverage digital tools for more effective data-driven communication. And this is a long overdue yet important conversation. So I'm very glad to have two awesome speakers to take us through the ins and outs of AI in PR. And we will, of course, introduce them properly in a minute. For those of you who are not familiar with Africa Comes Week, it's a global movement building bridges between Africa-focused communication professionals and experts committed to the continent's transformation. And this webinar is part of learning and networking events that we're co-hosting in collaborations with CIPR International. And CIPR International is one of the largest sectoral groups of the Chartered Institute of Public Relations. So if you missed our previous edition, you can always catch up on our YouTube channel. And I'm very happy to introduce our co-host from CIPR, Samantha Siwusurum, who will introduce our speakers and also moderate this discussion. And let me conclude by wishing us a very productive webinar, and I certainly look forward to it. Samantha, over to you.
Great, thank you so much, Annie, for this introduction. So my name is Samantha Siwusurum, and I'm a member of the CIPR International Committee. Annie's just briefly outlined CIPR, but it's the world's only royal chartered body for public relation professionals. It is committed to professional standards and lifelong learning, supporting the careers of its members and building public understanding of PR. And also CIPR members who are joining today can actually log 5 CPD points for this event. So it gives me great pleasure to introduce our first speaker today, Kerry Sheehan, who is a chartered PR practitioner, a CIPR board director, and a fellow of the CIPR. Kerry is a UK government communication director who works in the Prime Minister's and Cabinet Office on a range of issues, including the COVID-19 crisis, reshaping the government communication service, and also climate change. She has more than 15 years of PR experience in government, health, tech, B2C and B2B sectors, including global brands such as Microsoft and Intercontinental. She has extensive experience of leading communications and marketing functions in both agency and in-house settings, and she's proven success in developing and implementing data, automation, and artificial intelligence strategies. And finally, Kerry is a member of the Public Relations Communications Association, the International Data Science Foundation, a board member of We and AI, educating on the risks of AI, and is also part of Women Leading in AI. So it's great to have Kerry with us today. Our second speaker comes from Nigeria, who is Mr. Ayeni Adekunle, who is truly a veteran of the Nigerian media landscape. He has a wide-ranging career as a journalist, a writer, public relations expert, and entrepreneur. He is the founder of the public relations agency Black House Media. He's the founder of the Pan-African creative digital agency ID Africa. He is the founder and CEO of Net News, and he's also founded one of Nigeria's first dedicated entertainment websites, Nigerian Entertainment Today. So Ayeni also has a keen interest in the future of media and marketing, and it's also a pleasure to have him with us. So to get started, first of all, then with Kerry. So Kerry, you're one of the driving forces behind the CIPR's agenda in AI. And today we've got people with us from all around the world. We have students, we have people with decades of PR experience. So what is it that we all need to understand about AI and about digital tools? And how are these going to affect us in our work? And how can we leverage them in the best way possible? Thanks, Kerry.
Brilliant. I'll just share my screen quickly. Could you? Okay, I can't share my screen. I need somebody to allow me to share my screen if that's possible. Brilliant. Hopefully you can all see that now. Conscious of time, so I will take you on a whistle-stop tour to answer Sam's question on, why do communicators need to know all about data automation and AI? And first of all, I'd like to say thank you for that really lovely welcome, and it's always a real pleasure to be having these conversations. with CIPR International and our great friends across Africa. Some really fantastic work being done in PR and communications. So well done, everybody. So going back to AI, why do we need to know about it? Well, it's just going to help us to augment what we do, help us work smarter, faster. It's not coming at us, it's already here. It's been here for many, many years. In fact, artificial intelligence dates back to the 1950s, if not before that. But it's never really been on the table, so to say, because we didn't have the data that we needed to make it viable. And now that we do, because we're all making sort of data, even myself sitting here, I'm emitting some data from my phone and all sorts. So we do need to know it. And
sorry, Kerry, I'm sorry to interrupt. We're just not able to see your slides currently. I don't know whether you can just have one more go so we're all able to see them.
Okay, let me just try that again. Spare me a second. Let me see if I can unshare and I'll reshare.
Yes, we can see them. That's great. Thanks, Kerry.
Right, okay, so AI is already here. I'll make up some time, sorry about that. So AI is here, it's been here for a long time. It's very much our bag now. We do know that the coronavirus pandemic has only accelerated it across the world. And we just have to basically know this stuff. Bear with me a second. I'm a slight delay here. So why is it really important to us? Well, like what I've just said, the coronavirus pandemic has really accelerated things. It was coming at us anyway. AI has been used in many global responses from many different countries across the world. And we really do need to get our heads around this now. How do we work smarter, faster? If you think about it, AI is on your smartphones, it's in your home assistants, it's being used every time you look at Google, it's there, it's with us, it's not tomorrow. The PR landscape is already shifting and it's going to continue to shift. And in fact, for those of you that haven't already seen this, turn that back on, if we look at this skills wheel, some of you would have seen this from the CIPR, and this was some work that we did, researching all the tools that we use in our roles. We asked the global PR industry to send automation tools and any AI tools to us. We benchmarked that against the Global Alliance 52 odd capabilities that they say a good communicator should have. So on AI and PR today, which bearing in mind was 2-3 years ago, you can see that there is a lot of the area at the top is red. Forecasting, analysis, data management can be automated right now. In fact, it is automated right now in many places out there. And that's in all different kinds of nations. It's not just the developed countries by any means. It is very much also the emerging nations as well. They are all over this. I mean, Ayeni will tell us in a minute, they've got some fantastic AI startups, innovators, and so on. And then you can see the orange, the amber is which can be automated, and the white is where we think we're safe. So leadership, ethics, strategy, creativity's got a question mark. Then if we fast forward to 5 years, but this was 3 years ago, we've now changed this prediction to about 18 months, 2 years tops. You can see more of the skill sets that we have, more of the areas that we look after can easily turn over to automation and AI tomorrow. So we will no longer have to do these roles. So what are we going to do in our own roles to work smarter, faster? Bearing in mind that these tools can take those parts over, but how do we continue to augment what we do to ensure that what we're doing is the best that it can be? So let me just close my windows slightly. That's it. So we've already spoken about AI, automation and AI already changing the landscape. We know that it makes conversations and connections more powerful. I'll pick up on that shortly. AI will enable us power to make smarter decisions based on data. And again, I'll pick up on data shortly. And that will again enable us to have more powerful conversations and get more deep meaningful insights to also inform what we do and so on. In short, it's going to radically, and it already is, enhance PR and communication, help us to personalise communication and really support business better as we move into that solution-led leaders space. Crunching data with AI a lot faster will help us to spot trends, hot topics, inform what we do better. We can be more efficient. Smart analytics, connected intelligence, which many of you are already using, and ultimately that will help us to be more productive, more efficient, but also really showcase our value more to business, because we can really use AI to aid us in our roles, in our communication strategies, our planning, our campaign deployment, but also on the flip side of that, as we actually advise and guide businesses. So I've already spoken about how is it being used in our roles currently. Well, it can help us to get real-time insights, sentiment analysis. You've probably all heard of that. There's lots of low-cost and free tools out there at the moment. Just have a Google free sentiment analysis tools if you don't use them already, and you'll be able to get some free subscriptions or some free ones to utilise and so on. And that really does enable us to get insights in real time to best inform what we do going forwards. We can no longer do communication looking at it only retrospectively. We do have to be anticipatory, we do have to be predictive, and we do have to always be in real time. And that's what, again, AI tools can help us to do. Again, enables us faster responses, and there are bots and plugins that we can use that can also help us in communication crisis situation. And by incorporating some of these, and I'll talk quickly through how we can incorporate some of these, this will help us to have a really bigger share in our organisation's teams, those business proposals, enhancing the communication that we do, and really taking us to go forward. So I know Ayeni will pick up on some of this shortly, but let's just have a quick look on where AI tools and programs are currently being used in communication. So data. Strongly suggest we all very much need to get to know data inside out. Traditionally wasn't our skill set, it wasn't our area. It is now. We have to be trusted to interrogate statistical data, but we also have to know what data our organisations hold, whether we buy in third-party data, what do we do with it, but also what data we have available to us to best inform our communication plans and our strategies. So go and talk to your data teams, your tech teams. If you don't work in-house or you don't have that in-house, go and find someone in your locality, in your area that is using a lot of data, and we get to know what they're doing. AI enables us to get deeper, more meaningful insights through crunching that data faster, something that humans could never do as quick. An example of that is myself working at the heart of the UK government's national ongoing response to COVID-19. It was taking us about 5 to 6 hours to manually go through situation update reports, which is data from all of the government departments, to then best inform the decisions that need to be taken for the next phase of the response, and the Prime Minister to go out to the media and the nation on what the next steps are. This was taking, as I said, 5 to 6 hours. It was taking a very large team. We deployed AI through a platform, and we've now got it down to about 28 minutes. So again, that just shows you smarter, faster, it augments what we do, and it frees us up to do what we need to do best, and that's to make decisions and do the whole strategy piece. Where do we go next? Social listening, probably all aware of that. That has to be at the fore of a lot of the work that we do now, as we try to move to being anticipatory and predictive, and not on the back foot. And I'll talk more about that shortly. Automated content, the tools and programs for automated content, as Ayeni will probably talk about, are getting better day by day. We don't need to do copywriting anymore. Needs to have human oversight, but we will be moving into a place where we'll be content curators. So we will put the data in, the automated systems, the tools and the plugins will come out with suggested content, whether it's for our internal comms, our external comms, our media releases, our briefings, our stories, and so on. We'll have human oversight on that. And then we get to some of the whizzier end. So natural language processing is where it kind of gets into real AI, and that's where we can start to look at correlations between the language that we're using for more impact. So just because we may think a sentence would land well with the audiences that we're going to put it out to, will it really? you know, could we tweak or change a word here and there for more impact? Natural language processing, that's called, and that's one of the elements that's being used quite heavily now at organisations, but particularly big brands out there are really using it. AI is being used in campaign management and deployment. We use that across government. Various government departments now have systems where we fully manage the campaigns. We come up with creative concepts with AI, and we actually deploy the campaigns with the support of AI. So again, that's showing you that it's not just the private sector brands that, you know, traditionally are seen to be further ahead. It is government departments, local councils, for example, as well. And that's not just in the UK. There are some African nations doing that as well as other global nations. Chatbots, virtual humans should be a big consideration for our toolkits now, our PR toolkits. You know enough about those, don't need to go into details, but we will see more use of them as we go forwards. And voice search, and also utilising voice from phone calls, from touch points to, again, analyse to help us to improve what we do. I've just spoken briefly about, you know, why we need to get to know the data, because a lot of these tools are fed by data. So we need to know what we're doing when we're buying these tools or having them built in-house. So I'd strongly recommend, again, you get to know what quantitative data your organisations collect and utilise to support you to be able to best do that. You know what's stored, who's collecting what is available to you, you know, what could you analyse, any examples of that, and what advantages would you gain. And again, the mantra of this is very much kind of test, make, break and learn. You know, find out what you've got available to you, and then, you know, go and find whatever tools and plugins you may want to have a look at to aid you. We always have to remember that this is in our own roles. So, you know, augmenting us, what we do as communicators, but also the flip side of that is our advisory and our guidance roles to those that we serve, whether you're in-house agency or an independent, a freelancer, to be able to support, you know, organisations and businesses also come up with decisions. And there's many organisations and businesses out there that are either using, you know, data better, or, you know, kind of really starting to look around now to think, oh, what data do we need? How can we use it? How can we maximise it? So that's one of the things there. So I'll just go on a bit of a whistle-stop tour, because I'm conscious we need to hand over to Ayeni on just some of the practical tools and programmes that you can have a look at to start to bring some of this to life. And what we're trying to do here is to really start to try and break it down, so that, you know, it's not, oh gosh, this whole AI thing sounds, you know, quite huge. You know, I need all this, you know, big computer systems and, you know, big servers and things. We don't. You can just get free plugins and tools and upload them onto your laptop. It's quite incredible the speed that it's all changing out there. They've already spoken about sentiment analysis. Tools and products can help us to analyse Twitter data in peace times and also crisis times, extracting critical information to, again, provide us with themes, chatter, directed at us, but also in that wider sphere of influence and the wider tribes out there, to give us that feedback in real time. Again, you know, sort of media monitoring in real time, and that will enable us to have a look, you know, at these reports or the dashboards that you set up on the back of this and see, have we got any gaps? Should we be plugging any gaps here? Or, you know, do we want to take a different course of action, and so on. There are other tools out there where you can have a look to see what the conversations are about you from searches on your website, your company's websites, or you can see what people are searching about. And this is aided with AI tools and programs. One of them in the UK, and I don't think it's been rolled out globally, but you may have an equivalent, is something called Social Mention. And you could put any theme into it. I could just Google Nigeria, for example, or Africa transformation, for example, and it would tell me all the search themes that people are looking for when you are putting those key terms in. And again, that can help you to see what the themes are, what people are searching for, what interests them, what is influencing them, and that can again best inform, you know, the programs of work that you're working on, or your campaigns. So that's a good one. You can currently get quite a few free searches before they ask you to pay. AI is being used also to enhance communication again. Chatbots. Either here today, we'll probably remember the first talk that we did on chatbots. It seems quite a long time ago now, but things have really moved on since then. And here's an example which you probably will be aware of actually, because this was used quite widely in Africa to date. The World Health Organization COVID-19 chatbot. And again, powered by AI, it pulls in lots of what we call API feeds and news feeds. But the good thing about this, again, and it links into the previous slide, is it was also based on not just sort of FAQs that, you know, myself or whoever else is working on this program thought, oh, this is what people need to know. It was pulling in data from those AI tools, from those website searches, from the social media chatter and so on. So you can make it go full circle. And this has really been well received to date. Automated content, and I think Ayeni will pick up on this a little bit. This is when people seem to kind of go, oh no, woe, sort of, you know, woe the day when perhaps we won't have to do copywriting anymore. And hopefully, you know, that won't, you know, completely be taken away from us to a certain extent. But, you know, getting better day by day, week by week. And here's just a couple of examples of some better known, tools that are out there now that you can use. And some of them, you know, like Grammarly is a very high profile one. You can just check your grammar if that's not your top skill set. But the others there, you can put in a few words and it will finish it for you. And before you know it, you've got some content. So again, this is internal communication, external. We're moving to a place of where we will have to be content curators. So where do we go when that part of our role is taken away from us? Personalizing content, and again, this picks up on the whole copywriting elements, looking, you know, using AI algorithms for behavioural patterns and preferences regarding people's content consumption. And this is where it starts to get quite whizzy with different tools and programs, because, you know, we may have got our piece of automated content, for example, because we've had a look at some social searches, some online searches, we've got a bit of an issue, we've got some FAQs, we've got our strategy. So we've got our content ready to go, but how do we know people are going to consume that the way we want them to aid us in what we're trying to get across? You know, whether that's behaviour change, impact awareness, and so on. And there's an example here called Uberflip, and basically that aggregates content, uses AI and intent data from all these different touch points to recommend and automate personalised content experiences. So you can see that we're starting to really build up to the whole piece here. And I'll just whiz through a few more before we hand over to Ayeni. Another example here is, you know, content for increased human-to-human interaction. There's a tool, quite a whizzy one actually, and again, it did have a free subscription, you know, Word AI, and there'll be loads of these, you know, all badged up under different names, you know, across all the different African nations. And what this does, it doesn't look at sentences as a list of words like the other one does, but it converts lists of words into sentences that makes humans interact better. So you can see that it's already augmenting what we would do as humans. My brain would perhaps come up with a sentence, think, oh yes, that would have impact, but will it really? This helps you look at word association and, you know, just making those more powerful. So that's really interesting. And then natural language processing, which again is just putting data through algorithms. But NLP is automated content, but it can also, again, look at those word associations for us and tell us what works and what doesn't for impact. And big brands are already using this across the world to support with their campaigns so that they land better and ultimately they get more sales and all sorts. But an example here, Article Forge, again, algorithms to automatically rewrite articles just the way the human does, but it's based on, you know, keywords and optimization, and it also works with SEO. So you are basically ready to go. You don't have to, you know, copyright your own piece and then think about SEO. You don't have to use automated content tools and then think about SEO. This one does the whole lot for you. So again, moving to be more powerful. And then we get to creating content from data. Now, again, this is where it gets really powerful, and this is something that we're working on sort of currently within UK government, for example. How do we go about, we've got the data, how do we go about creating content from that data? So we are really data driven, as an aside, once we've gone through it to make sure that it's the right data. But here's an example, it converts data into interesting narratives. Gives you sort of written analytics, and it just transforms the data. Obviously, you have to have human oversight to make sure that that is something you might want to consider putting out, or it can inform you on what your stories could be to bring your strategies to life. But this is being widely used now, as it says here, Yahoo, Microsoft, PricewaterhouseCoopers, PwC are using it, and so on. And it currently generates about 1.5 billion pieces of content every year so far. And this tool hasn't even started getting going. And it's quite reasonably priced as well. So again, just shows you what is coming off the shelf. It's no longer having to be built in-house. And then just before we head over to Ayeni, so that's a bit of a whistle-stop tour. Don't discount creativity. There's a lot of work being done in the creativity and AI world now to come up with campaign concepts, the way humans like to see creatives out there. Big agencies are using it as well as smaller ones. But there was a hell of a lot that you can do in Canva. Canva is powered by AI, and you can obviously make your own bits and pieces on there, which you may already be doing and not actually realise that a fair amount of it is being powered by AI and automatic selection and so on. And just before I do hand over to Ayeni, there is a lot of talk, will creativity stay the mainstay of communicators? Well, hopefully it does, but we are already seeing AI used a hell of a lot for creatives. We've seen the first car advert fully scripted by AI, Lexus, and that was probably about 18 months, 2 years ago now. And more and more organisations and brands are now looking to AI to help come up with newer, innovative concepts, but also concepts which may not look completely new or innovative, but would land better with us to aid whatever it is that they want to get across to us. And here's an example of a website to look at for creatives that are put together by AI. You can just put some suggestions in. Before you know it, you've got some nice images and pictures that you might want to use as part of your communication. So that was just a little bit of a whistle-stop tour of some of the examples we're already using. And I think the whole point of that is it's here, test, make, break, and learn. It's not going to go away. And if we don't know how to use this stuff, then we do run the risk of not remaining relevant for much longer. So over to you, Adekunle.
That was great. Thank you so much, Kerry. It was fascinating to hear how data-driven communication is really coming into its own, and also to hear the examples of the UK government even using AI that probably most of us wouldn't have realised was happening. So that was fascinating. So if we can now hand over then to Ayeni, if you can just come off mute and also put up his slides, then that would be great. Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. Okay, if you just allow me share my slides. I'm very happy that Kerry has done most of the heavy lifting. So I won't take too much of your time. I've got just a couple of slides. Can everyone hear me? Samantha, I've got audio, right? Good.
We can hear you, okay. And we can see the slides. It's perfect.
Thank you. So I like what Kerry has done. She's given a very, very, very high-level introduction into what we're talking about with a lot of details and tools and everything. What I want to share with you is what we do at BHM and how we've used digital tools and AI to make our work better and easier for ourselves and for our clients. I'm just going to speak through. So And please pardon my slides. They are not as, okay, now I'm trying to, okay, good. Okay, so the first thing I'd like to say is that we PR people like to advise clients not to wink in the dark. It's a very popular saying. When we launched BHM in 2016, our motto, I think, was stop winking in the dark. But I realized that often as consultants, as advisors, and even our clients, we take for granted the importance of this, having a dashboard that gives you the kind of access to everything you need to know on the go. Many years ago, this was not possible. Today, you can almost set up a dashboard to monitor, to analyze, to listen to anything. And I've put an example of a smart card here to show you that whether you're on an aircraft or you're driving a car or even your Apple Watch, there's a huge opportunity to understanding how this should be your right-hand man or your right-hand woman. And I'll explain. Your dashboard lets you have a glimpse into what you're doing. But you must set up your dashboard in such a way that it lets you measure what matters. We've been, for many years, we've been measuring, but we've been measuring the wrong things, partly because technology does not let us, partly because also we were not very, very knowledgeable about how to customize and use the tools well. We've measured AV many years ago. We've measured impressions and reaches and all of that, and which could have some value depending on what you're looking at. But most organizations are interested in linking the outputs with outcomes. So if you must use your dashboard well, it's important to be able to set a very key metrics that lets you measure what is important. Now, if you understand what you need to measure and you've set up your dashboard, and when I talk about dashboard, it can be, and I'll show you a couple of examples as I go on. It can be as simple as your insights page on Instagram or your Google Analytics and all of them. But you must collect data every point of the journey. And this data can be what you are putting in. They can be basic surveys. They can be about your own employees or your clients. We send daily reports to a lot of our clients at BHM. And going back to look at the performance of those daily reports gave us an insight into knowing who was checking it, who wasn't checking it, how long they were staying. It gave us the opportunity to go back and create a survey and ask them, most of you are not taking a look at this stuff. What do you want to see? Should we make it shorter? Should we add more visual? So the kind of data you collect will depend on what you're looking for and what you are trying to measure. Now, that's not an error. I'm asking myself, if you were to analyze all that you have, you've pitched content to media, you are trying to analyze a daily report, you're monitoring a crisis, you are doing an influencer campaign, you are trying to use your the HR's dashboard to understand employee behavior. Whatever it is, we must be able to use human beings and technology to analyze in such a way that we can make sense of the data that we have. Now, there's a little risk there, because if you sit on Twitter and you've taken a look at how your content has performed on Twitter, or you go to your WordPress backend, or you're an HubSpot, wherever you are, we may miss our way if we focus too much on a specific set of data. So what this means is, how do we pull data from different sources and put them together in such a way that we can understand different behaviors, different activities, different concepts and everything. The way people interact with the video content on YouTube, different from how they interact with it on Facebook, different from how they interact with it on Instagram. In fact, and this is partly because of what the platforms let you do, and also based on how the different demographic that use these platforms behave. So it's important to, not everybody will need all of this, and of course, there are more. I've picked this based on what we use at BHN to try to understand activity on owned media, to try to understand how our clients are interacting with the reports and content that we send to them, to try to understand. We used to use Blogger many years ago. Blogger gave us the same sort of value as WordPress. As the years passed by, we left Blogger and focused more on WordPress. Today, more and more organizations are using Medium and they are moving to Substack. Now, I must say here, listening to Kerry and seeing all the technical stuff that she's shared, and I spent last night studying the AI in PR website, and I advise everyone to take a look. They've got a lot of the resources there. At first, you begin to think of artificial intelligence as something very technical, very, very high up there, and that is difficult to contemplate. But if you paid attention to our session and you look at everything you have on this slide, what I take away is that we are already using it. Our clients are already using it. We have an opportunity to then begin to reframe how we use it and how our clients use it. Most of the work our clients will do, not only in communicating. My biggest concern is not about actual public communication. We have clients who make beverages, who make computers, who run countries, who run organizations, and all of that. I'm okay. The Google translator, the way Google will translate a language, the way we need to help our clients understand, not just those who are B2C or who are, we've got clients who are going to put products in people's hands that are going to require some expertise in understanding human behavior to be able to train the machines well and make sure that they are not causing trouble where they're meant to create solutions. So most of us use AI. If you have an Apple Watch, if you have Alexa, if you have Siri on your phone, if you have any virtual assistant, if you use Gmail to schedule emails and all of that, so we're using it. The next step is to understand the relevance to the work we do as individuals, the relevance to the work that our organization does. You're working from home, you are using Slack, collaborating on Google Docs and all of that, and all the tools available to make our lives and our works easier. And the next level is how to make our clients and if we're in-house, our superiors and principals understand. For those who may not be shipping products that are using AI, and for those also who are doing smart stuff and all of that, especially those in so-called minority areas like take Africa, where when these products are being created, our languages, our cultures, our norms are often not factored into when these things are made. It's taking years for, say, the Google Translate to now begin to sort of navigate African languages, and it's still a long journey to getting it perfect. And that is just one aspect. There are a lot of other aspects. And if we understand that it's not coming, it's not something up there that is very technical that may not come. It's here in our cars, on our computers and everything. Right then, it gives us an idea of the kind of investment we need to make. Organizations and people will need to invest money. And I've represented on this slide all the different forms of investment that we need to make. Some people just need to throw money at it in tools and all of that. Some need to invest in actual knowledge gathering, in training, and some already have what it takes because we are doing it. We just don't realize that we are doing it. For some, he will take maybe the next couple of months or the next couple of years. For some, it's going to take a long time. I'm right. We've been very fortunate at BHN. From when we launched, I've been very, very particular about digital technology. Up till now, every resource we have in terms of investing goes into make sure that we automate what can be automated, we make what can be faster, and we reduce how much time people spend on things that are repetitive and that can be automated. This is my final slide, and just give me a minute to talk you through this. At the end of the day, there are strong ethical concerns around artificial intelligence. I often advise that we should always listen to those who try to make those points and understand what needs to be understood and take what is useful. There are ethical concerns. He will pay us to understand the role of PR, okay, is the truth well told, is integrity, is honesty, is trust, to build trust at the end of the day. We need to make sure that as we're solving one problem using technology, we're not creating a lot of other problems, which is what we found with what's happening with social media, where take Facebook, it gives us an opportunity to connect like never before. But if you then begin to plot the damage to society, to democracy, and other, you begin to ask yourself, all this value at what cost, right? But unlike in the movies, where these four people are main characters in one of my favorite series of all time, Breaking Bad. Unlike in movies where we can be conflicted and root for the bad guys, because the writer have been very smart about their writing, and you leave the cinema or you leave your laptop or your TV feeling that why am I rooting for that guy, but what he did is bad. We all watch crime and thrillers and all of that, you know. This is real life. There's a lot at stake. Actual lives are at stake. I hold a firm belief that public relations is one of the most important things that can help us make the world better. If we get it right and we advise government and multinationals and all of that well, and we succeed, we can actually prevent wars, prevent major companies from going down, educate people better. If we fail, or if we empower the kind of tools that have been trained wrongly, then we would have failed in what is our core mission. That's about it from me. I think that's just about enough time to then take contributions and questions. Thank you. Samantha, are you there?
Yes, in fact, I think it's Marisa is going to take over now for the Q&A. That was great. Thanks so much, Ayeni. In fact, well, maybe I'll just start with the first question, in fact, while Marisa is coming along. So the first question then is for Kerry from Mandy Pierce, who is our CIPR president. So great to have you with us, Mandy. So Mandy says, how do we make sure when AI analyzes data that it identifies causation rather than random correlations? Even human analysts struggle to differentiate between the two. So Kerry, maybe you can start on that one.
Yeah, so this does go back to, you know, PRs having to have a full understanding of data, and Matt is quite right to point that out. And I think what we are seeing is that is potentially the biggest issue with current machine learning trends, is our own human flawed tendency to interpret or describe patterns captured in models as causative rather than correlations. You know, as a sign of unknown veracity, accuracy, or impact. So it is something that we really need to be aware of. But one of the basic tenets of statistics still applies to, you know, AI, because we are putting the data in to start with. That correlation doesn't imply causation, and as basically the AI's predictive power doesn't necessarily imply in any way that the signal is actually related to or explains the phenomena being predicted. So again, we really need to get to know this stuff and make sure that we don't fall into this trap. You know, like what Mandy quite rightly pointed out, if as humans, many of us can struggle with those differentiations, and what is causing what, or is this correlation or prediction right based on what we have here. But the distinction matters, I think, when it comes to machine learning, because many of the strongest signals that these algorithms pick up in their training data are not actually related to the thing that's being measured. And that's where we're starting to get into the ins and outs of kind of the algorithms and machine learning here. But some of this is because they can't be directly observed through a single variable. Predicting most events from likelihoods. Perhaps a user be given a product through the likelihood a given country will collapse into civil war tomorrow, for example, does rely on a patchwork of signals, none of which directly measure to the actual thing that we're looking at. So I think what that does highlight to us is AI is not all rosy, it's not all perfect, and as communicators, we need to know data in its raw sense before we even start to put them through the machines. So I realise we're getting a bit sort of technical there, but there's some good pointers there to think about. And again, an area that we both need to pick up on, data, statistical data, and it can send you down lots of rabbit holes, but I strongly recommend you do read up on it.
Excellent. Thanks, Kerry, for that. So our next question then comes from Oluteyu, which is about writing articles. I think I'll hand this one over to Ayeni, because I have to say I'm personally someone that's very skeptical that a computer can write a beautifully copyrighted piece in the same way that a human can. So the question here, so to Ayeni also as a former journalist, is like, well, what do you think of the concept? What are the new skills for PR consultants that we need to remain relevant? Ayeni, over to you.
Okay, so I feel that the more we understand and use AI, the better our work will actually get. What it does is that it frees us from aspects of the work that we shouldn't be doing personally. I'll give you an example. It's always interesting to approach new things. Compare a manual car and an automatic car. Compare a self-driving car. So my thinking is the PR consultant, the PR professional, okay, is trained, number one, on the domain they practice in. If you're in FMCG or you're in technology, you're in government, you understand the terrain, you can provide the right kind of counsel, the right kind of advice to your superiors or to your clients and all of that. That's number one. Number two, you understand public relations, because digital tools, machines don't work in isolation at the end of the day. So I feel that our skills will become actually more useful because now we have all the tools we need to analyze. And the reason why for a very long time, the so-called big consultancies and advertising could command the kind of respect and resource that PR could not command was the way they presented themselves with research and data and all of that. My dream is that, because I also believe that the work that PR does, we've all seen what happened through COVID. Okay, the actual serious work with reputation management and communication and crisis management is public relations. It's not advertising. It's not, so the more we understand digital technology, the more we understand our client's business, the more we can deploy the PR skills that we have to help our clients and succeed.
Great. We've got one more question for you, Ayeni, which is about how do we hold governments to account for using AI for social goods? What would you have to say on that front?
Mm-hmm.
That's I think we have an opportunity to provide the right kind of counsel. The media will hold government accountable. Our job is to make sure that the people we work with and for do the right things. I think that's the most important thing, with from privacy to honesty and all of that. My rule is the better access we have to senior management, the better advice we can give them. If we've done the right thing and they listen, then we can avoid trouble. Often, no matter how hard you try, there will be trouble. But the easiest way to solve that trouble is to be very honest and very upfront. So our job is to know what is right and encourage and advise and work with our guys to do what is right. And the relationship between government and the media is at this very, very terrible phase because there's a breakdown of trust. I think that the PR people have a role to play, okay, in making sure that that trust is rebuilt. If we rebuild that trust, we can then begin to contemplate even rebuilding the trust between the citizens and the government.
Very good. So, so I'm now going to hand over the floor to Kerry for a question from Akuri, which is to say, how do we as communicators also educate ourselves on data and privacy laws around AI? I mean, Kerry, since you're also in the government domain, I'm sure that, that data protection must be very important as well. So what would you have to say on that response?
So first of all, regarding data, strongly recommend you start reading up on it. Not lots of governments have got sort of draft AI policies, guidance, data strategies. The UK has got a data strategy which is on gov.uk. You may have similar things within your nations. I think Kenya's also got one as an example, and that will just get you to understand, you know, what governments are working on, what is the direction of travel, and obviously how some of these organisations and brands are going to be sort of following them to a certain extent. I'd strongly recommend get yourself into some data circles, some data meetups. You know, look online. You know, where are people having these conversations? I myself don't come from a data background. In fact, I failed my maths exam first time round at school and had to retake it to obviously make sure I had the grades to get into university. And it wasn't my subject whatsoever. So I do kind of chuckle to myself now because you have to go on that upskilling journey. But it's not as hard as you think it is once you start to break it down. So again, get to know your data teams. If you don't have one where you work, go and find somebody. You know, there is a data, a tech person. You know, Adekunle can also point you in the right direction, and we can put in some other colleagues across Africa as well. It's just getting to know what is data, what is it being used for, what it shouldn't be used for, and some of the terminologies that they're using as well. I mean, like the question that, you know, Mandy, our CIPR president, posed. Then you'll move yourself to a stage where you can understand the question that Mandy's asking and why she's asking it in a sense. You become more empowered yourself. You'll get to know the data that is powering some of these AI tools, but more importantly, you'll get to know what data you can and can't use for AI on an organisational wide basis, whether it's a large project or a small project. And you can then start moving yourself to not only analysing data in your own roles, you know, being trusted to interrogate statistical data, but you can actually move yourself towards being a solutions-led leader and being part of these AI build teams to ensure ethical considerations are at the fore, reputation is maintained, trust is built and maintained, and that no AI that isn't for good, that isn't ethical, is going out there. So again, that whole circle piece. So yeah, perhaps we'll put on a data conversation here at some point, some tips and guidance.
Excellent. Thank you very much, Kerry, for that. So I'll now come to a question from West Africa, which I'll maybe hand over to Ayeni. So the question comes from Emmanuel, who's in West Africa, in Benin precisely. And his question is about how do you get the clients to see the relevance of media data in its day-to-day business activities? How do you get them to understand the current world of technological advancement? And he says, how would you advise that data we source for data, especially in a country where there is not enough data on the internet relating to media? So, so this scenario is probably not unique to Benin, but probably a number of countries in Africa might be facing a similar situation. So I'll perhaps hand first over to Ayeni for any comments on this one. Thank you.
So if I get this question well, is how do you get data about media and all of that in a point where the client is not investing or they will not be patient to understand, or where the resources do not readily exist? Is that correct? Okay, so I'll tell you what we've done at BHN. We created the opportunities to get our own data. When we saw that there was not enough data about the PR industry, we started Nigeria PR reports. It doesn't cost as much as people think. We started doing surveys. When we discovered Google and Google Docs and all the survey tools and everything and SurveyMonkey, we started using them. Okay, so depending on our needs or what we want to show our clients. Clients often listen more when you show them a pie chart and you show them a table and they ask for the raw data and you can show them the raw data and you can explain it to them. They will listen, and once you convince them once, the next time the resistance, the barrier is less. So what we've done is 2 to 5% of what should have been our company's profits. We've always made sure that we invested back in research and tools and all of that. In fact, we've built an entire platform. Check it out, plaqad.com, plaqad.com. Part of the reason why we've done that is that we want to be able to give people a dashboard where they can see the meaning. Okay, so you appeared in Business Day or in The Guardian. So what? We're just estimating and speculating on reach and all of that. What does it mean? So we can take that discussion further offline, but that's an idea of what we did.
Thank you. So I think we just have one last question before we close the session, which has really been very fascinating for us all. So the question comes from Denilson Moreira, which is about audio communication. So the question is there any way we can take advantage of AI for audio communication? And if that's the case, would intonation be the most important thing to consider? So Ayeni, I'll hand that one to you first, and then we'll hear from Kerry, and I think then we'll be almost finished. So go ahead.
Audio is the future. It's been a long time coming. There will be challenges around dialects and intonations and all of that. But those of us who work in the knowledge economy like to think that it's natural for everybody to type and write. Audio will show you how powerful communication can still be. There are so many people who can speak in their local dialects and language, and they're very, very fluent. But the platforms that we have are all text-based, and we just assume that everybody can write, So it's going to be powerful, and we need to understand it early so we can lead our clients and our companies into it.
Great, thank you. So Kerry, any thoughts yourself on the audio side?
Yeah, just like to add, I mean, voice search is only going to get bigger. Just as an example of using audio for an AI channel, so that needs to be part of our PR toolkit now, looking at how our customer stakeholders, audiences search for information on the organisations, brands and businesses that we work for or that we serve. So that's a really important one. The second one on audio is obviously audio voice bots as well. How do we ensure that they have the right tone to reflect our organisational and brand values and our identity? And where we get to intonation is really important, because well, sort of in the UK we have a problem with some of the home assistants, like Google Home or Alexa Home still doesn't recognise certain accents. Sometimes, for example, it was a bit of a novelty at first, having to shout at Alexa in a louder voice because it wouldn't even recognise my voice, and I don't have what's considered in the UK a strong regional dialect. So there is lots to be done there, but definitely voice search, audio search is going to be quite big for us going forward. So yeah, and again, just shows it's not all rosy, but it is work in practice.
Great, thanks. Well, I think we have no further questions then, that will now close the session. So we'd just like to thank everyone that's been with us this evening, all of our participants from all different parts of the world. It's been great to have you with us, and we hope that you've been able to take part in this session and get some real insights, which is just what you were hoping for. Kerry and Ayeni, it's been fascinating hearing from you both, to hear your real life experience and examples. It's been absolutely excellent. So thank you so much for sharing your thoughts with us. And we look forward to seeing you again on another session in the future. Thank you, everyone.
Yeah. Thank you for having us.
And please do not forget to follow us on the social media. If you want more information, please note that this session has been recorded, and you can find it on our YouTube channel, so Africa Communications Week channel. You can find it there. And if you want more information, please follow us on the website, on our website, www.africacommunicationsweek.com, and also at acw.com. Please, for the next session in April, do not forget to follow us, and you will have more information. Thank you, everybody.
Brilliant. And just thank you to Samantha and Eniola and yourself, Sam. Always a real pleasure. We look forward to supporting ACW as we go forward.
Great. Thanks, everyone.
Take care.
Bye.